than we think about traditional tea. This is a black tea stuffed into made kind of citrus flavored tea. So you brew, when you do the steeping, you will brew the whole thing, and it will give you that very strong citrus oil flavor in it. So we are kind of the southeastern. A lot of our growers are citrus growers. So I just wanted to have this up here for our citrus growers to see maybe this is something we can think about, or even something different that our consumers may be more acceptable to it. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, resources. I wanted to mention UC Davis Global Tea Initiative here for the processing part. They have been really holding a lot of events that actually talk about and give you the experience of different tea around the world, how they were processed in different countries. So that will be a good resource, that website to look into, what's available there. And also the Tea Grower Association will offer, sometimes, I don't see any hands-on processing workshop soon. However, I'm pretty sure the growers and the association, they want to do something on processing. And a couple growers' websites, definitely Jason, his websites, you can see what type of tea, especially new ones, are available. And when you look at it or even purchasing it, you may be able to decode it backwards and see if you can do something different or similar. Fleur, the Davis Tea Company, that's their website. They are going to be able to maybe testing some of the processing pretty soon. Okay. Now I'm going to hand it to Dr. Liu. We're going to have a discussion. Dr. Liu, you have 10 minutes. We're going to have a discussion. If you all can hang around a little bit later, we're behind schedule, but we have the growers over here. So it's a good chance to ask questions and let them share with everyone their thoughts.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, let me loading my. Hopefully that's the version I'm loading. So my name is Zijin Lu. I'm with the LSU AgCenter, and a lot of collaborations for me to work with horticulture faculty members over here. Yan asked me to do work for the project. Well, at the beginning of the project, that's a couple of years, 3 years ago maybe, saying that end of the project we'll have samples for you to analyze. So that's where we are now. We have a little delay, but the lab is doing it, analyze the samples from Yan. So you're going to see a lot of results soon. We're working on it. So today I'm going to share with you the tea analytical techniques. So I'm so glad to hear. I've been listening from very beginning, a lot of background about tea growing, processing, history, everything, perceived health effects, all those things. Now I'm going to shed some light from tea analytical techniques point of view. So let me try to do a very brief introduction on the tea analysis. Let me see if I can move.
Yeah, we don't see. Yeah, Zhijun, we don't see your PowerPoint is coming up, but I have it. Do you want me to?
I see it. I see it.
Oh, okay.
You see it?
Yes, I do.
So it's okay.
Analytical techniques.
So it's okay to move on?
Try to go to the next slide.
All right, let me continue.
Okay,
so
yeah,
think about, think about chemical components in tea. Okay, so what we know is caffeine, alkaloids, polyphenols. We have catechins, flavonoids, tannins. We have tea flavins that give us the reddish orange color. You can tell the color you like, the green color is from the chlorophyll pigments and many others. So all of this are we talking about? Mostly we are dealing with secondary compounds. Okay, these are the secondary compounds that we are really interested in, and probably those are the things we are tasting and sensory responsible for those in combination. So these are the general classes we know that we are interested in. Let me see, go next one. Now here are the tea compounds of interest. So if you go through that detailed compounds, you see caffeine, you see a bunch of catechins. You have catechins, catechin-3, gallate, epigallocatechin, epigallocatechin, gallate, EGCG. Dr. Beasley talked about that. And you see a bunch of, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but in the center are the catechins. Also in the last few is T flavin, and you see natural analogs of T flavin. So T flavin, 3, gallate, those things. So these are the compounds that are interesting to the growers, to general scientific research. So that's where we're talking about the health coming from these things. Okay, so let me move to the next one. So caffeine, of course, we consume. Lots of people think about caffeine is very active compound, mood change, a lot of things, right? Psychological effect. We also see EGCG representing the catechins. So it's abundant. So EGCG, you heard a lot about that. You can also think about T flavin representing the T flavins. Okay, so in all natural things that the plants do not make just one version. They always make multiple versions. That's the interesting part about plants compared to a chemical synthetic chemicals. Okay, so now among those, what do we analyze for? So obviously there are many compounds. You're talking about in tea, easily get 50, maybe more than that. So what to analyze for is where what we call chemical markers. So caffeine, of course, is a great interest. We know a tea have caffeine and amount, so you can tell a lot of stories, marketing, help you with that. So that should be a marker. EGCG representing the catechins. It's very, very, very representative and a lot of health indications, a lot of research on that. It should be a good chemical markers. Of course, the T flavin can also be a good marker because as you see, why we are interested in T flavin. Okay. By the way, if you are, I'm interested in that the caffeine and EGCG, when they are pure, these have no colors. So basically, just like water, you drop them or solvent, anything. If you look at the T flavin, where that tell you it's a orange reddish like, where do you find those? Okay, that's a pure compound. Just one compound alone give you a sense of black tea. Okay, let's go to next one. Is green tea or black tea? Well, we all talk about, Yan and many others talk about how to process and from the same plant material or Camellia sinensis, you end up with very different product. Okay, so let's talk about polyphenols. What do you have? You can, okay, so roasted. When you talk about green tea, you roasted them, you just basically stop the enzymatic reactions or physiological processes kind of freeze on its chemical composition. That's what they're trying to do with green tea, or minimize the degradation or changes. Fermented, on the other hand, you intend to like them to ferment, oxidation, so let the post-harvest chemistry kick in. So you end up with black tea, and obviously you can tell the color. And anything in between can be either white tea, very light, to dark brown, reddish color. So those can tell you a story of the oxidation degree. Okay. So now, why is that important? Is that when the process really can change the composition of your tea. So you can have more EGCG in your green tea and more tea flavins in black tea. Okay. And with that, it also brings changes in medicinal properties. That's why it's important to know what you have done, whatever your treatment you have done, you change the chemical composition, which brings changes in medicinal properties. Let's see, cancer prevention, weight loss, that tea ingredients may inhibit lipase so that you have less fat degradation and digestion and less absorption. So all those things are in the public domain, in the science domain. So a lot of things changes. That's why we are interested in the composition change, because it gives you different property. So of course, I'm interested in, as a grower or consumer, I would be interested in knowing how much of those markers in my product or in my tea that I'm going to drink. Okay, so how do we know that? This is techniques, what we usually call this based on chromatography. So you can have liquid chromatography, you can have gas chromatography. So as a lot of things about that, but just very briefly, the most common analytical tool can use, not that expensive and very productive, is high performance liquid chromatography, or HPLC. So it's very common all over the place, and many labs can have this one, and very accurate, very efficient. So you can do more for sophisticated instrumentation. LC-MS, mostly for quality control, and mostly using that for detecting trace, very minute amount, like contaminants, herbicide residue, all those things that you can use LC-MS or LC-MS, so can be very, very accurate. But we are dealing with the good things. So where we are talking about chemical markers in the tea product. Let's see, here is a show of HPLC in my lab, and there are many versions of HPLC, many brands, but they are all based on the same principle. Okay, here is a system where you have modules, you have computer control everything. Sometimes you have integrated instrument that all in one, so very, very compact. So in any case, they do the same thing. So here's one, we prepare tea samples, and we have Gabby Kirkle just joined me with, help me with tea analysis. So we're gonna recruiting lots of people working on tea. By the way, we have a medicinal plant science program here. Dr. Beasley know very well about that. So we are training students, could be your potential future labor force. So here's one, we are preparing the tea materials. We do extraction, we do filtration, we make sure they are accurately weighed. So we wanted to quantify the leaf material. So, okay, we have leaf samples ready. What we get from HPLC is a chromatogram. So here is an example of a chromatogram. So that green tea sample came out to show as this chromatogram. What you see, those green things are peaks. So peaks, well, you can tell some are taller, some are flatter, some are not as sharp as the others, but they all peaks That's what we see, what's the ingredients. Each peak represent potentially a single compound. Those are markers we talk about, okay? So now you can see, I'll just give you a very brief introduction on that. So what you see is this, each peak is characterized by its retention time. So you see from 0 minute to 70 minutes. So now we see a mixture of tea now is separated along a timeline. That's how we know the tea compounds are separated there. So obviously now I can steep a tea and sitting there. So see which peak is my compound. So I can number them to show a sample. So I can number each peak, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see to 17. I can label more, but give you an idea what we've seen now came out of the HPLC. We can number each peak. Obviously, my question is, which peak is caffeine? Which is EGCG, and which is tea flavor? So how do I know that? That's what we want to find out. It's actually not that hard to do. What we need to do is here is secret, is that you have a standard compounds you can purchase at its purity that only have caffeine, EGCG, or tea flavor. So we'll mix them there, and now we use the same protocol. You see that time scale, we can overlap over these two chromatogram. What we see now is we line up. So now I know a caffeine, EGCG on the top. I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor. So, but anyway, so here are the things. What I'm going to do now is matching the two chromatograms. So I know that peak is caffeine. So I matched this one to peak number 6. So that's where I'm going to say, okay, here's my caffeine. Okay, what about EGCG? I do the same thing. I'm matching. EGCG match my peak number 8. So now I did it, this peak as EGCG. Obviously, I can do on tea flavor. So this time I matched no peak. So what does that tell me is that, well, I don't see any tea flavor in my tea. Okay, so of course, so that's the things we talk about is, well, so I matched up. Obviously, your question would be, okay, what about the other peaks, that number 13? What's that? What number 5? Obviously, you can ask many. So if I want to know number, for example, 13, so I could do the same thing. I can pull in another standard compounds. In fact, you can find all compounds that have been identified in tea. So you can potentially match every peak, okay? So here, based on this matching, and obviously I didn't tell, is that this, you see absorption unit on the y-axis, that's where it tells me how much it is, okay? So the taller obviously have more of the stuff than the lower ones. Okay, here that came out based on that analysis. I say, okay, this tea sample number 32 has the caffeine 1.55%. And translate that per gram of dry tea, you're going to end up with 15.5 milligram. EGCG 2.6%, you end up with 26 milligram per gram of dry weight if you want to steep that one. Okay, so tea flavin obviously is not there. So I need to move on faster, I'm sorry. Only 3 more slides. Here, that's for the product. You can potentially think about how to understand your product based on that. But as a consumer, I said, well, I drink a cup of tea. How much do I drink caffeine? How much EGCG I drink? The mixture, whole thing into my stomach. Okay, go through my system. So obviously, I can tell from that. So now the uses of these results. think about the results you have. You can potentially label your tea products ahead of the time. Right now, you based on the taste, sensory things, that's fine, it's great, because you have to like it, right? So, but you can label the tea products with caffeine. How much caffeine is there? Do you have no caffeine or low caffeine? That may be a good thing. The high caffeine may be also a good thing. Depends on when do you use it. So you can label a product. You can also label a product for the polyphenol represented by EGCG. So a lot of uses for that. Obviously, you can use this tool to assess all those things with all of us have been talking about. Quality. How do you variety difference, growing season, processing, sourcing season, many other things. You can answer with these results based on those markers. Okay, so obviously for consumers, if I drink one cup is 15 milligram EGCG that help me with antioxidation, anti-inflammation, help me stay physiologically younger, that may be a motivating data for them to know. Okay, so obviously you can also providing information on the effect of brewing tap water with filtered water. Does that make a difference in addition to the taste? Temperature, length, all those things, how that the tea marker compounds are steamed end up in your tea. Okay, sorry if I drag too long, but here is a very simple 101 tea analytical techniques. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you, and I'm sure that I appreciate your attending. Any questions? If we don't have time, you can also do it after this. Yan, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. I really appreciate that's going to give us a different perspective of how the qualities are, especially quantitative chemical profiles. I can hear myself. Technology is good when it works. So everyone, I know we're kind of late in schedule, and I see people start to leave. So I want to do a couple really quick announcements and then go into our discussion. Where is my slides? Okay, here we go. This is showing. Can y'all see this announcements?
Yeah, it's working now.
Okay, good. Okay, I have a couple really quick announcements. This is the International Virtual Tea Festival. So it's virtual, you know, like everything else this year, but still you can visit vendors. You can get tea samples if you register early enough. I think we're still good in time to register for that sample box of tea. And then you can also join classes. So it's virtual, but it's a good learning opportunity for 2 days. So November 7 to 8. And here's the website. And I'm going to put the website link into the chat box also. And the second announcement is UC Davis. They're going to do the annual colloquium also virtual this year. That's January 21st. So early in the spring. Before we get into tea production, we can learn this year is their 6th annual colloquium, and the overall theme is the stories we tell. So they definitely emphasize culture and the overall story, you know, for a lot of tea related business, even folktale. A lot. It's very interesting. I participated last year and I really enjoyed it. So I encourage you all marking down these 2 events and keep you on the most updated information these events can offer. And after that, I have quick announcement that we're going to have you all do a survey after this. I'll try to send out the survey this afternoon, but if not, it will be tomorrow, Saturday morning. You're going to receive a post webinar survey that's going to get some feedbacks from you all on how we did today and how the technology worked out. And also the most important, what you are going to be interested that want us to focus for our next talk. We do have very experienced growers that we can invite as our guest speakers, and we have scientists on the regional or even national team that can offer different perspectives into research. And also definitely from many different disciplines really can give us a different perspective. So with that, I'm going to see if we still have more questions. I really want you all to take this opportunity to ask questions. We still have Jason McDonald here, I see him, and we still have Mr. David Barron here. Any questions for our growers or any speakers? Okay, in the chat box, I see there were a couple questions. From Jennifer, is there a source for the bamboo? Yeah, the bamboo withering rags. And there was a previous question asking about processing equipment. So we have been kind of group purchasing, group ordering with other growers. And Jason McDonald, he was leading the effort, getting the vendors to put together orders and use as fewer, on shipping as possible. So we have 1 container shipping all the orders together. Jason, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I can't. Can you hear me? Or because y'all were saying my mic wasn't working earlier. Can you hear it?
You're good.
Okay. Yeah. Usually, I think we're going to do another equipment order next year at some point. And again, on that, if you'll get in contact with Yan, I mean, Yan will know about it too. I mean, I think that'll be the easiest way because we're not the best at keeping up with stuff anyway, but yeah, the bamboo racks come out of China. We had discussed there may be somebody that could make them here in the US, but they're fairly cheap, but they really do need to be ordered as a big group in containers. And I think the rack was about $200 plus a little bit of shipping when we did it in the containers. But yeah, the equipment too, I said, it's if you order, say, a roller, it's about $750, but then you put air shipping of another $700 and it gets quite expensive. But if we can share a container, it may be $100 extra for shipping. So we try to do a lot of this stuff like seed ordering and equipment ordering in bulk to save on shipping.
Okay, yeah, because these are all overseas from China or from other countries, Asian countries. So the shipping is the most expensive, other than the equipment. Sometimes it's almost as expensive as the equipment. So the group ordering works out better.
Yeah, and so what we usually do is that it comes in and the container, David's on the line, but we bring the container to one place. And then everybody is in charge of getting it from the one place. So last time it was David's farm there in Louisiana.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
And this is David, and that's available again. And I think I'll be looking for some additional equipment. So, Yan, whenever you start making your list, I'll touch bases with you.
Okay, yeah, and we also need to maybe check with the logistic from the overseas, see how's that going nowadays. You know, it may take longer. Everything's getting.
I spoke to Choice actually a couple days ago because he's shipping something to Canada right now. They're still on, you know, sea trade is still on. I mean, it takes 58 days like ours did. You know, it wasn't exactly quick, but, you know, we'll probably look at ordering somewhere around August and it'll probably arrive somewhere around Thanksgiving is probably the thought. Is when it comes, but it hasn't slowed down. I don't know about inspection though. I mean, that could have slowed down. But everything else, there was an interruption there right at the beginning of COVID for them, but everything's kind of straightened back out.
Okay, I have another question that's kind of interesting, and I didn't have time to answer it more thoroughly earlier, because some of our audience are, you know, trying to grow this for personal consumption at home. So they were asking if there's other ways, you know, to other than mechanical processing, other ways to process tea at home. That's definitely possible, and may need more experiments, testing different ways, and quality control. How can you make sure you're making tea the same way? But at the same time, since you're not selling, you know, it's definitely give you more room to, you know, to have different kind of results every time. So I'm not sure if let's see if whoever asked the question is still here, but definitely for anyone that interested in making tea at home, we're hoping at the next event or sometime, you know, when things get better, we can do hands-on or demonstration type of hand processing. And for the growers, still mechanical is going to be the way for you to be, you know, control the quality, to be consistent, and to be profitable. You can handle more leaves than hand processing. We have another question asking about blueberry interplanting or incorporation of blueberries with tea to plant blueberries among the tea, let them grow taller and provide a bit of shade as well. This is really depends on if it's feasible for you to harvest the blueberries without, you know, wasting time or whatever going in between blueberries and then tea and then blueberries. Because many blueberry farms are nowadays harvested by the machineries. So if it's a mechanical harvest, you want to definitely have, you know, the blueberries trimmed the way that are going to be handled easier by the machine. So if there are tea bushes shorter in between, I'm not sure how's that going to affect your time to go through a blueberry field intercooperated with tea. Okay, let's see if we have more. Those are the questions in the chat box. Okay, we have another question. Has anyone studied volcanic rock as an amendment? Jason, do you want to comment on this volcanic rock?
We've grown in volcanic rock in Hawaii, but I don't know, you know, I don't know exactly what, I saw that question, but I don't know exactly what they're meaning. Now, biochar additions, there's been some stuff or some research, but, you know, in volcanic rock, I don't see the value of adding volcanic rock to anything around here as an amendment. So like I said, I don't understand the question. If the person's still here, I guess they can ask it. You know, it could be grown in volcanic rock, but I don't know the reason to add it here. Now, biochar, you would add it to hold to hold nutrients, but that's not volcanic rock.
Yes, and also volcanic rock, if it's used as soil amendment on the mainland, I think it's going to be quite costly.
Well, I mean, the only thing it could possibly offer would be that it's sulfur based. Usually, if it's black, now if it's red, it's iron based. But you know, there's a whole lot easier way to acidify the soil than to bring in volcanic rock.
Okay, so I think there's another question. For an average family that drinks a gallon of iced tea a day, how many plants would be needed to supply tea for the year? I think Jason touched on that.
Yeah, it got re-asked, and so on that, what we generally can get here. Now, of course, we figured it for Oregon too. I think Oregon's maybe 1/4 pound a year per plant. Here it's about 1/2 pound a year, and in Hawaii it's almost 3/4 pound a year. But that doesn't come all at one time. So, you know, you're going to be making, if you only have 2 or 3 plants, you're going to be making little tiny batches every week to try to get that amount. So, but I mean, those are kind of the ideas, 1/2 pound a year.
Okay. So let's see how many growers we have here. I wanted to ask you what's going to be your outlook for the future marketing in terms of having this pandemic that we don't know when it's going to be less restricted for people to go grocery shopping, or even, you know, farmers market are not, you know, open everywhere. So how's that affected your business and the way you handle it?
Well, I mean, I can answer again on that. For us, we've started doing a whole lot more online education, and we launched a whole new thing called UST Experience. And so, like tomorrow, we have a Eventbrite live chat, sort of like this, where we send out the samples of tea ahead of time, and then we show you how to use them in recipes, or we make cocktails out of them, or mocktails. And we've just kind of had to rethink how people can now interact and get the experience with tea without being together. Because part of the specialty tea market is selling the story and the experience of the tea, not just the tea. So if you take out the in-person element, you have to figure out how to bring it back that way. So, I mean, those are the things we've done.
Yeah, so I guess, Jason, you're the only grower that is actually selling this year. I don't see David from Oregon. He probably already left.
Yeah, I don't think David's growing, or I don't think he's selling right now. Yeah, like I said, it's been tea sales have gone up because, of course, availability, and as you saw in that the study, because there's some teas just aren't available this year. There was an interruption because of other, you know, interruptions in the field. Tea prices are up almost 200%. So the Wall Street Journal did an article a few weeks back about that, and so some of the, you know, the price of tea is up right now, so ours doesn't look that out of the ballpark anymore as compared to others.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, and this is David from Florida, Lee.
Yes.
What I predict, again, when we get back to a more normal situation, is like Jason's saying, we'll be promoting, tours of the field, educational experiences, along with a sit-down experience at the tea house. But again, I think that will change slightly as we figure out when things do come back to a more sense of normal.
Yes, I think you are doing really good getting the tea house this year. Definitely you're getting ready. Whenever the situation gets better, the visitors are coming back, you're going to have a nice opening.
Look forward to that.
Yes, yeah. So we have a couple more questions. One of them being, okay, someone's interested in equipment purchases. That's good. So we'll keep you all kind of drop down a note who's interested in this. So we'll contact you once we have the next group purchasing. And another question also from Mike, will LSU publish a market prospectus for tea, including capital? This is going to, I believe Hawaii already published something on the economic return of growing tea. So they have something mentioning input, output, but we have not really done analysis, kind of crop cost and return analysis for Louisiana grown tea. But I'll definitely check with Dr. B, see if she has done anything. She's MSU, so if she has done anything with both of the large tea growers in Mississippi. Jason, have you all done anything looking into the numbers with the university?
I don't believe they have. That was something that I was asking if at one point an agribusiness or somebody in agricultural marketing or anything could put it together, the numbers for us. I have some privately that I based most of my stuff on, and the Hawaii numbers aren't going to be real helpful on the mainland because I've grown out there too. That is something, if somebody's in business formation, we do consultations. That goes into my my paid end of it. Not that I'm advertising that, because I know that you can't really do that, but the numbers and things is part of kind of like a business consultation. But as far as I know, that was something I was asking Mississippi State to do, and I don't think we wrote it into the one grant that one time that it got close to being funded, but it never did, because they had Dr. Becky Smith that was going to do that end of it in the USDA grant, but I don't think anybody's ever formally done it.
Yeah, I'm writing this down because I think it's going to be an important aspect for the larger teamwork, the planning grant, to include economic analysis for starting a tea farm. So that will be really helpful for anyone interested looking to the numbers, see how far they can go with their capital available inputs. So another question is really on type of tea, this matcha, that's a Japanese way of making tea. Matcha is a powdered tea made from ground leaves, more mature leaves. So it's powdered, it's a type of tea, different way of processing, but there's really not a whole lot of information on it, because matcha, the importation has been, really, I don't know if the marketing is picking up on matcha being as a health supplement or something, because I personally like to eat any cake, ice cream, whatever have chocolate. Kit Kat has a matcha chocolate has matcha in it, but I don't really do matcha itself. It's very bitter. I'm just not used to the taste. So I guess it's a culture thing. So I'm not sure if the market in the US is really picking on drinking matcha. But there are specific selected varieties that will do very well for the purpose of making matcha. And you can find, if you Google or if you search matcha production in YouTube, it's going to bring up some videos how it's grown, how they shade the field in February and make the tea grow really straight upward and fast, and then harvest the whole stem, all the leaves, and make the matcha. So there's videos available. Next question, I'm interested in making flowering teas. I believe it's a green tea processing for the base leaf. Do any presenters have any thoughts on this process of incorporation? The flowering teas, it can be green or it can be black, I believe. How about Jason? Have you really looked into this? We saw some on the market, even here, and people enjoy watching the bloom, but I don't think it's.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like, so the question earlier too was about white tea and about being expensive, and that it comes down to what we can do by hand and what we can do with machinery. And in the US, some of the things that we're going to do by hand are going to be wildly expensive and not enough for return. And so the flowering tea ball thing, they have to be wound up by hand. It's an art, but people aren't going to pay you for that art per se. If I had to sit down for 5 hours to make a tea ball, nobody's going to pay me $150 for the tea ball. And that's where the same thing with white tea, when you're plucking one leaf in a bud, it takes 10,000 shoots. Well, you've got to pluck that by hand, and that's going to take, I think a friend of ours did some the other day, and they got about 100 grams of tea after 6 hours of plucking. When we're in India, they can buy one leaf in a bud for 25 cents a kilogram. We can't compete against some of these hand labor things, like a tea ball, like white tea. If you're doing it purely as a hobby, just for your own fun, I mean, go for it. If it's commercial, you're never going to make money off of some of those types of teas. I mean, those are my thoughts on it. So no, we really haven't looked into that. We are looking at some machinery that shapes the tea. So we brought a carding machine this year, and I think Jan's seen it, but it kind of makes needle tea. There's presses that make the little tiny balls like Tiguan Yin, Oolong, those types of things we can do. But if you get into a lot of handmade, very intricate things, if it's for a commercial venture, I don't see there's no profitability in it. That's just my thought.
Okay, very good. So for some of you interested in making flowering tea or matcha tea, yeah, think about the labor and how you're going to make it, especially for matcha tea. It has to be stone grounded, or it's very specialized equipment, and very, I would say, hard to get or expensive. So those are the considerations you have to have. The source for getting the equipment, and also you have to think about the market, where to sell, and how can you compete with the import. So anyone, any more questions? We are past 12:30. So okay, So thank you. I don't see more questions. Thank you everyone for hanging around with us late. So really appreciate everyone joining us today. We shared a lot of information, and I look forward to get that survey out to you all, get some feedback, and we'll see. We're going to see what we're going to focus for the next webinar. And I understand that 3.5 hours is a long time staring at the screen, so we'll try to make a series, maybe learn at lunch, something like that, to hope, hoping more people can join us and learn.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all the speakers for staying late with us. Thank you all so much for the contribution.
Thank you.
Well done, Yan. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Miss Debbie. Yeah, thank you.
All right, you all have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Was wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, I see the email of the recorded session, so we already have that available.